It's not only that you are talking about something and on the next day you see it on your phone. It's not that you're talking about that friend and then he calls you all of a sudden. It's not only that, it's that you're creating everything according to the timeline you're in. And the timeline you're in can be shifted. You can shift to a different one. See, when you start feeling fear or when you start feeling anxious, you're gonna start being bombarded by news and things that specifically seem to be tailored to things that stress you out. And on the opposite, when you feel like lighter and when you feel good in your body, you start seeing beautiful things coming out. So how can that be? The algorithm reads your vibration. The apps on your phone, what you see outside at the grocery store, everything is according to how you are vibrating. And here's the important bit. You can get distracted and follow and believe that to be true and start going to a spiral, or you can beat the algorithm and recognize it. Don't make it part of your existence. Don't acknowledge anything that you see and move on to a different frequency. And then you can start tailoring that to taste. You don't need to see anything that you don't like anymore. You don't need to expand on things that make you feel guilty, that make you feel shameful. There are certain things that vibrate at a certain frequency and are truly affecting you. You can choose to go there or not, and you can choose to neutralize and alchemize those things, but there are certain things that will always keep you in limitation. You know, in your case, what that is for you. I don't need to tell you, but you know what things, when you do them, they lower your vibration. For example, when you start feeling cold in your body, when you start feeling that sort of sensation that your heart is beating faster and you feel a bit more like compressed, look at what you're doing. Look at how you're breathing. Look at what you are consuming. Look at what you're watching. Look at the people you have around. Look at the type of energy in the conversation. Because that, the more you focus on that, the more you're gonna get that back reflected at you in the algorithm of things. And you can beat the algorithm. You can choose not to get involved, to step back into your body, into your presence, and say, okay, I acknowledge this reality. I'm not part of it. I'm moving elsewhere. We can no longer stand the drama and the gossip. Because it's not doing any good. And the more you get into that, then at first it's gonna seem to be addictive and funny, and yeah, that's fine. But then it gets dark. And it starts pulling you in. But it's your decision. You can have a quick laugh at whatever you want to laugh, but acknowledge, is this toxic or is this just something that makes me laugh because it's silly? Ask yourself. And if it's toxic and you've had a history of consuming that, know that you can do it if you want to, but it keeps you down. You are creating that loop. You can say, interesting, thank you very much. I'm gonna have a last laugh and I'm gonna move on to something else. And then there comes the resistance. There comes your friends or somebody else or the algorithm selling you that as cool, and you will start feeling uncool if you don't consume that, if you're not part of that tribe. But you know what? The trap keeps you in limitation, and it's always the same loop, and then you start feeling miserable. So do you want to feel miserable, or how do you want to feel? How do you want to be in your body? What type of things do you want to see and create in your life? You can always say, okay, this is fine. Yeah, it's one or twice a week, a month, or whatever. But know that certain things and certain circles drain your energy. And the drama is part of a frequency. And you have to be really aware to know to not take shape into that. You know what I mean? You need to be fully present in order to acknowledge that it's not your reality, but it's still there. Because it's always going to be there for you if you bring your attention, your focus, your awareness into that. But again, you can beat the algorithm. You can take the algorithm from showing you, not just on your phone, but your reality. From showing you lack, limitation, violence, discussions, anger, division, politics, all of that, into expansion, awareness, superpowers, freedom, health, energy, joy, things that you actually have to experience whenever you feel like experiencing them. But again, so you need to bring your awareness and your focus into that. Just like it's easier and heavier and more comfortable to pay attention to things that are a bit more distressing, but they have that dopamine release, that instant dopamine that it's keeping you anchored in a reality you don't like. So if you truly want to transform, say thank you, I don't need this any longer, and move on to something truly exciting that makes your heart and your soul vibrate. So maybe get rid of some of the stuff that you don't longer use. Get off some of the social media that is hurting you. At least take a little break and see if you come with a different awareness, you can see a new light on things. We are at such an important moment where we have access to everything, but that can also be counterproductive, can be a limitation. You don't need to limit yourself. You don't have to. You can create a beautiful world with that sort of imagery and music and art around you. But don't take shape into anything that is hurting you, that is keeping you with low energy, at a lower vibration, because then you're gonna see that reflected. If you consume violence, you're gonna go out and you're gonna see things happening. The best thing that you can do is to raise your own frequency, and from there you'll see what is true and what is not true, and then you can get involved from a different space, but not by adding more of that frequency into the collective. It has enough, because that reality already exists on one side, but there's another one that is more freeing, that is bringing you a new world, a new possibility. And there are many people in that timeline. They're just like you, getting over things and moving on to a heart-based reality. That's my dog complaining because he wants to rest just now, and I'm making this video. But anyway, you can beat the algorithm because you are creating it with your attention, with your focus. What you focus on expands, and that works for the algorithm, that works for what you see outside. You don't have to believe me, just see it for yourself. and you'll see it's quite obvious. So that's part of that manifestation world where you start focusing on something and then you sort of let go of the resistance, let go of the insistence until that thing comes to you. So in a way, this can work for changing that algorithm. If you start paying attention, if you stop paying attention and putting things on a pedestal, the bad news, the things that seem so real, if you start for a moment putting them away and start giving them less attention to none, you'll find that everything's going to start changing a bit. You start seeing a shining light somewhere, and you'll start having a different perception, because you'll be shifting to a different timeline where that thing that you were so worried about that you wouldn't ever be able to change it from that state of being, when you start shifting, you'll see that it actually resolves and everything changes by itself. It's really important that you remain in presence and your attention goes inwards. And then you'll discover where your attention goes effortlessly. The less you control, the more you flow. The more you flow, the more opportunities, the more beauty, the more energy, the more health, the more wealth. So what are you going to choose? And remember, don't feel guilty if you consume something and you feel like, I feel like my energy is going down. Don't feel like paranoid because of what you're consuming or what you're seeing. You can always say, okay, thank you. I acknowledge this, but this is not part of me, so I don't have to feel guilty. I don't have to feel fearful. I just need to stay in my own lane, my own center, for a couple of minutes, shifting my vibration, and you'll start noticing everything coming back. You're not slave to any vibration, really. That's the beautiful thing. You can shift it, and you can shift your reality accordingly. So don't believe things are so immovable. If the algorithm is draining you and you think it's a non-stop loop, it's because you're placing all your attention there. So of course you're gonna start believing that you're part of something that you're not. It's all a construction. So try shifting and then let me know how it goes. Not staying somewhere where you are uncomfortable and it becomes a routine, because it can keep you trapped for years. You want to, because maybe you do. Sometimes we do seem to enjoy it, but it's because we don't have the awareness that there's something else outside of it, and we feel, okay, this is reality. You can change and swap that algorithm for something else. I hope this helps. And I'm gonna give you a little tool in order to change that, to whenever you're feeling overwhelmed and having that sort of information overload that leads to not being able to go inwards, staying silent because you always want to catch up with the latest thing. Breathing. Breathe through your nose and make your breathing conscious. It doesn't have to be complicated, just breathing through your nose, in and out. And if you can, start making the exhalations last longer than the inhalations. Pay attention to that. Give it a couple of minutes and see how you feel. Try to breathe less in a minute. Instead of shallow breath, just deep breath. Just like my dog here. See how he breathes. And notice how that changes your state of being. When you have a relaxed nervous system, like a reset to your nervous system, everything changes around again. Because when you see certain things in this algorithm world, it's because you're at a certain stage, certain point with your nervous system dysregulated. So when you start regulating your nervous system, things change for good. So then, breathing through your nose. Gratitude. Gratitude for being alive. Gratitude for being able to breathe. Gratitude for being whatever you are. Just gratitude for being able to be alive. Start there. Start adding things like being able to see the sun come out. Being able to have a conversation with somebody. Being able to have a phone to listen to music. Being able to have an instrument to play music. Being able to sing. Being able to dance. Being able to go outside. Being able to stay still in meditation. You can find things to be grateful for. And that gratitude will start changing things that you see around. And then losing the weight of the things you see. Losing the reality side of things that keep you so heavy. In order to change, you need to be lighter. You cannot change by feeling heavy about everything that you see. I know it's real in your timeline. It is real. But it's not real in some other timeline. So you can shift. You can change that reality. Gratitude, breath, focus. Then you can ask yourself by closing your eyes and breathing, okay, what would be the best thing to do now? And stay in silence until something gives you that answer. And that something is going to be your higher self telling you by your intuition, okay, we should do this next. And that will bring you some synchronicities. But you don't need to think about it and force it. You just need to let it be. Let it flow. And when you are in this space, everything around changes. That algorithm will become rhythm, the movement of your life as a present being, in presence, not being enslaved by what you see outside, but knowing that you have something inside, a connection with energy that has the power to transform everything. Call it God, if you will, call it source energy, call it spirit. You can call it however, the universe, whatever name you like. But know that that connection is allowing life to move and will allow you to move and not stay stagnant, trapped in an apparent reality that is not serving you. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you being here, taking the time to listen to all of this. And I truly hope that you implement some of these ideas and notice that you can shift to a reality where you don't have that pain, where you don't have that limitation, where you are not seeing the things that you don't want to see. And you're becoming a different version of yourself. So that will imply that you don't need to look back for the things that are affecting you that much. Don't look back for that old algorithm. Remain in presence and let life happen in the most magnificent, beautiful way. Thank you so much for being here. See you on the next one.